Hi, Mrs. B here. Let's review for the Chapter 1 test. Why don't you pause the video, do the problem in your spiral, and then you check your answers line. Okay, here we go. Okay, for these problems, we're going to practice our computations. So first we're going to add. So we have to line up our decimal places. So we're going to do 5 plus 6 is 11, carry the 1. 8 plus 4 plus 1 is 13, carry the 1. 1 plus 5 plus 9 is 15, so bring down the 5, carry the 1, and that would be our final answer. Okay, for subtraction, we have to line up again our decimal places and subtract. So 3 minus 1 is 2. And then we're going to have to borrow because we can't take 2 away from 0. So we're going to borrow from the 9 and make it an 8. And now we have 10 minus 2, which is 8. And then we have 8 minus 6, which is 2. And then we have 8 minus 4, which is 4. So our final answer is 4,282. Okay, for multiplication, we have to do one row at a time. So our first row is going to be 4 times 316. So 4 times 6 is 24. Carry the 2. 4 times 1 plus 2 is 6. 4 times 3 is 12. So that's our first row. Our second row, we need to move in one decimal place. So we're going to multiply 2 times 316. So first comes 2 times 6, which is 12. So 2, carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. And then 3 times 2 is 6. Last thing we have to do is add up our columns. And we have 4, 8, 5, and 7. So that's our final answer. Our last one is division. We have to do long division here. So this is how we set it up. And the first thing we're going to do is try to divide 5 by 16, which isn't possible. So we have to move on to the next place, which is now going to be 54 divided by 16, which goes in 3 times. 3 times 16 is 48. So we have to subtract that from 54. We have a 6. We're going to bring down the next place, which is the 1. So now we have 61 divided by 16, which goes in again 3 times, which is 48 again. We have to subtract 61 minus 48. So we have 13 left over. We're going to bring down the next 3. So we have 133 divided by 16, which goes in. You have to take a while to figure that one out. It took me a couple tries, but it ends up being 8. If you find out you have a remainder that's larger than 16, you didn't take enough 16s out. So 8 is the 1. 8 times 16 is 128. When we subtract that, we get 5. Now that's our remainder. We're going to learn in Chapter 2 what to do with that, but for now you would just say remainder 5. And you are done. Okay, let's move on to not solving the problems, but reading the problem and trying to decide what operation you would need to do. So for number 16, with the box office, you have a certain number of tickets, and then some of them are just for the balcony. So the rest of them would be the regular seats. So they're either the balcony or the regular seats. So that's a subtraction problem to see what would be left for the regular seats. I'm just going to put a minus sign. Okay, number 17, each aisle has 36 shelves. So if you think of it, you have all those aisles with 36. So that means multiply to get the total. And for 18, if you have all those crates of oranges and you know what each car holds, you're putting that number into groups of 112. So that is division. Okay, for 1.2, we learned about powers. When it says to find the value, you have to multiply. So for 9 squared, that means we have to do 9 times 9. And our answer would be 81. And for 3 to the 4th, what that means is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And you can multiply in groups. That's what I do. Makes it easier. So then you have 9 times 9 again. Ta-da, we have 81 again. Okay, and then we learned about perfect squares, which are numbers that are a number times itself and make a square. So for example, this is a yes for 9 because if you think of a square that has an area of 9, it would have to be a 3 by 3 square. So that's what a perfect square is. So there's no number times itself that makes 12, so you would say no for that. Okay, then we went into order of operations, and remember that we're going to do parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, they're tied, and then add and subtract are tied, so you do them from left to right. So in number 4, we're going to multiply first. So this would then become, we rewrite the problem, and we have 15 minus 12. So our final answer is just 3. Okay, in number 5, we're going to do our parentheses first. So we have this, 5 plus 3 to the 3rd power. Now we're going to do our exponent. So we have 5 plus 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So our final answer is going to be 32. Okay, number 8. We have to do our exponent first. So we rewrite the problem. We have 4 plus, remember 6 squared means 6 times 6. So that's 36 divided by 12. Our next thing is to divide. So now we have 4 plus 36 divided by 12 is 3. So our final answer is going to be 7. Okay, we're writing the prime factorization. So our work is to do a factor trait. So we break down 49 into a factor pair. 7 and 7 is it. They're both prime numbers. So when we write the prime factorization, we write that as 7 squared. That's our final answer. 48. I'm sorry, 20. Let's break that into 4 and 4 times 7. 7 is a prime number, so I'm circling it. 4 can be broken down further into 2 and 2. We did it. We got prime numbers. We finally have to write our answer. So we have 2 2s, so that's 2 squared. And we multiply that by 7. And that's our final answer. Okay, 1.5, we learned about greatest common factors. We learned a kind of neat way to do that with the factor ladder. So we see what is each number is divisible by, and it would be 2 or 4. I'm going to go right with 4. And we divide by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. We can't divide by anything but 1, so we're done. So what we divided by is the GCF. So don't forget to write your answer below it. Okay, for number 5, a little tricky. Those are all both multiples of 11. So right away, that's what we have to go for there. And when we divide 22 by 11, we get 2. And 121 by 11, we get 11. So they're only divisible by 1. So again, we're done. And 11 is the GCF. And for number 6, we learned that numbers that end in 0 are divisible by 10. So we're going to divide by 10. 50 divided by 10 is 5. And 90 divided by 10 is 9. Only divide by 1, so again, we're done. If you ended up having a few numbers that you divided by, you would have to multiply them together to get the GCF. But in our cases, we found them on the first shot. Okay, and our word problem, Again, this is a GCF type of problem. So here I'm going to show you that multiplying. I'm going to do a factor ladder. We have to see what 12 and 30 are divisible by. Sorry, that's so sloppy. I'm going to start with 3. But you don't have to. You can start with 2 or maybe 6. So anyway, I started with 3. I'm dividing each number by 3. I get a 4 and a 10. So that means I'm not done because they're even numbers. So now I'm going to divide by 2. And now I am done because 4 divided by 2 is 2 and 10 divided by 2 is 5. And there are no other common factors. So how you get the GCF is that you have to multiply those two numbers you divided by, which is 3 times 2. So we can have 6 teams using every swimmer and getting the same amount on each team. All right, we're on to our last section, which was the least common multiple. So for this, we also use the factor ladders. So we saw what 10 and 12 are divisible by, and it has to be a 2. And we divide and get the remainder. And the last thing we have to do is multiply. So remember, though, for the least common multiple, you have to multiply 2 times what your answers were for the division. 2 times 5 times 6. So that would be 60. Okay? And our next one, I'm going to start with 6. So you don't have to. Just makes it faster if you can spot that. And 18 divided by 6 is 3, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. So to get the LCM, I multiply. Remember, it makes this great big L for LCM. 6 times 3 times 5, and I get 90. And the last one here, you have to see this a little tricky, that it's divisible by 13. And we would get a 2 and a 3. So when we make our big L, we're multiplying 13 times 2 times 3, which ends up being 78. And the very last one, that you have a 7 and a 3, that you're getting the LCM. That's an LCM type of problem. All you can divide by is 1. But you do have to remember that you multiply that by what the answers to division are, which is 7 and 3. So to get our answer, we have 1 times 7 times 3. So it would be on the 21st day that they would have both those lessons again. All right, I hope you did well, and good luck studying for your test.